The alert struck like a blade of static through the comm channel. Sharp, abrupt, and absolute. Warning, a human warship has entered the sector. Captain Tarlin's eyes twitched. He didn't speak. None of the crew did. In the silence, the lights dimmed half a lumen, as if the ship itself recoiled. Protocol dictated immediate withdrawal. Full stealth mode. Purge black box memory. Engage slip drive. Yet no one moved. The warning kept echoing in their systems, pulsing in blood-red glyphs across every display. Is it verified? Tarlon finally asked, though he already knew the answer. His voice cracked like dry bark. Confirmed, replied Second Officer Nira. Her gills flared once, then flattened. Signal triangulated, grid line, echo 2. Outer fringe. It's real. They were 37 parsecs from the edge of the anomaly, close enough to see echoes, gravitational dissonance. Calm static rippling like plasma waves across deep space. Close enough to feel it. No visuals yet. No beacon. No ID broadcast. Just a single phrase, automated by the Galactic Overwatch system, ancient and unchallengeable. A human warship has entered the sector. Tarlin's ship, the Veil, was a scout-class surveyor. Light armor. No main weaponry. 23 souls aboard, and not one of them had ever seen a human ship outside of declassified tribunal footage. None wanted to. AI thread says the signal protocol hasn't been used in over a century, Nero whispered. Last time, whole trade belt vanished. 17 stations. 3 moons. One ship did it. Tarlon exhaled. It didn't matter what kind of ship it was. A destroyer. A dreadnought. Even the smallest human corvette could flatten colonies if it wanted to. They didn't threaten. They didn't warn. They didn't explain. They acted. Status of long-range scan? Warp field distortion detected. Gravity lensing across a 40 AU arc, something's folding in. Slowly. Still no visuals? Nothing. They're dampening emissions. We shouldn't even know they're here. But they wanted them to know. That was the message. That was the real warning. They'd allowed it to be seen. In the command pit, the crew exchanged quiet glances. Tarlon knew the history. All of them did. The stories. The ghost fleets. The concept of total termination response. A uniquely human term. Nobody else had it. Nobody else needed it. Do we engage stealth and leave? Nira asked. He almost said yes, but then paused. His claws tapped once against the console. No, he said. We stay. Several heads turned sharply. They won't bother with us, he added. We're not the reason they're here, but someone is. Across the viewport, space flickered. Just once. A stutter in the void, like something enormous took a breath behind a curtain of stars. I want eyes on whatever's coming, he said. The navigation AI pulsed a yellow warning. Orbit destabilizing. Local gravity well-forming. Tarlon leaned closer. Log everything. No pings. No signals. Passive only. We witness and survive. Another pulse from deep space. Sharp enough to trip hull resonance. The crew braced as the forward sensor rig collapsed into static. The ship was being watched. Not hailed. Not scanned. Watched. A predator didn't announce itself to prey. Tarlon stared into black. Somewhere, just beyond their reach, something had arrived, and it was still deciding if they mattered. It arrived without ceremony. One moment, the sector's edge was empty. The next, the void peeled open like torn silk, reality bending inward. No burst of light. No shockwave. Just the absence of space being replaced by something. The human warship. It didn't resemble anything in the Galactic Fleet Registry. There were no flowing hulls or aesthetic curves. No symmetry. It was a jagged fortress, blacker than vacuum, its armor patched with darkened metals that swallowed sensor pings. Turrets lined its flanks, some still, some rotating, all primed. From prow to stern, it looked angry, as if it had never been designed, only willed into existence by spite. And it was massive. Size estimate? Tarlon muttered, knowing it wouldn't make sense. 4.6 kilometers in length. Nira replied quietly. Displacement exceeds Dreadnought class by triple. Hull scans show non-standard layering. Outer sheath is fused neutronite. That wasn't armor. That was a declaration. They tried to ping its registry. No response. Not even a rejection code. The ship acted like it wasn't being hailed. Like their signals simply didn't matter. Nameplate found, Nira said, markings in Anglic. She hesitated before reading it. Oblivion's Reach. The name sat in the air like a curse. Tarlin's throat tightened. He remembered the briefing logs. That name hadn't been spoken aloud in over a century. It had been sealed in Level 0 archives. The last time Oblivion's Reach had moved, an entire rebellion collapsed in a single night, not because the humans demanded it, but because the warship entered orbit and waited. The rebels surrendered within hours. Not a single shot was fired. Now it was here. It hadn't powered weapons. It hadn't moved. It simply existed, anchored in space like a monument to extinction. Broadcast surrender flag, Tarlon said. But we're not hostile. It doesn't matter. Send it. Nira did. 12 encoded forms, using every known human standard. They were transmitted, bounced, repeated. The warship didn't blink. Instead, their ship sensors began to fail. Not from damage, but from suppression. A wave of interference blanketed the system. Precise, surgical. Not a chaotic jam, but controlled silence. Lights dimmed. Display panels crackled. The Veil's AI rebooted mid-operation. Its subroutines force closed. Core utilities went cold. The human warship had shut them down remotely. "Are we under attack?" someone asked. "No," Tarlon said, voice hoarse. "We're being ignored." It was worse. The ship's presence warped physics. Thrusters felt sluggish. Navigation curves drifted. Space bent subtly around it, as though the warship wasn't within the sector, but the sector was inside it. Why is it just sitting there? Nero whispered. Tarlon stared at the silent mass. It's not here for us. Then came the scan pings, not from the human ship, but from somewhere else in the system. Hidden satellites. Cold ones. Cloaked infrastructure lighting up, trying to flee. Shadows of stations igniting their silent beacons. Someone was running, and Oblivion's Reach turned. No thrusters flared. No drive plume burned. It simply reoriented, facing the hidden signals like a judge called to the bench. It hadn't come to destroy a fleet. It had come to end a secret. The first strike was soundless. One of the hidden stations, positioned in orbit around the gas giant, vanished in a heartbeat. No explosion. No debris. Just a sudden, absolute absence. The sensors registered it as a spatial discontinuity event, but everyone aboard the Veil knew what it meant. The warship had fired. No warning. No locking sequence. No charge-up. Just erasure. Did we track the weapon? Nira asked, her voice dry. No. The AI responded, barely functional. No known energy signature. No light trail. No heat. No velocity vector. Tarlon didn't respond. His gaze was fixed on the second disappearance. Another cold facility, this one attempting to flee into the atmosphere of a nearby moon, cloaked in ion storms. The warship didn't pursue. It didn't adjust course. It simply selected, and then it removed. It wasn't firing weapons. It was executing commands. They began to understand what this was. Not retaliation. Not conquest. Judgment. The network the Valkreth had tried to forget. An ancient bioengineering ring that once dissected human POWs during the final Terran conflict was still here. Hidden beneath new flags, rebranded, sanitized by time and treaties. But the humans hadn't forgotten. They'd waited. And now, with no ambassadors, no trials, no speeches, they had arrived. Tarlon clenched his claws. How long had we known these outposts were still active? Officially, Nira asked. We don't. Unofficially, they all did. And Oblivion's Reach knew, too. It moved forward now, slow and deliberate, cutting through space without inertia, like a god wading through fog. Each movement felt measured, not out of caution, but precision. With every kilometer crossed, something else died. Data banks, relay stations, Escape pods trying to flee from long-dead crimes. There was no overkill, no collateral. Every target was selected, every impact final. They're not destroying us, Nira said. They're scrubbing a record. The realization made the silence heavier. Tarlon glanced at the comm logs. Still no signal from the warship, not even a demand, not a single word. Because words weren't necessary. Humans didn't posture. They didn't warn. They remembered. This wasn't justice by galactic code. This was human justice. The kind that transcended laws and courts. The kind written in blood and memory, and delivered without hesitation. Is there anything we can do? Someone asked. No, Tarlon said. This isn't a battle. It's a correction. The last station tried to flee into hyperspace. The warship didn't move. It released a ripple, something invisible, something wrong, and the fleeing vessel twisted mid-jump, torn open by the collapse of its own drive field. Silence returned. Oblivion's reached power down its forward arrays. Not in exhaustion. In conclusion, the system was clean. Tarlin's crew said nothing. What could they say? They weren't enemies. They weren't allies. They were witnesses to the act of a species that didn't negotiate after the fact, that didn't forget what had been done to their own. The warship hovered, unmoving. Then, as suddenly as it came, it began to fold. Not depart. Fold. Space peeled, twisted, collapsed into itself, and the ship stepped out of reality. No goodbye. No message. Just silence. And absence. The silence was worse than the destruction. In the place where Oblivion's reach had been, there was nothing. Not warp space, not radiation, not heat. Just a perfectly undisturbed void, as if the universe had erased a line of text and sealed the page without a crease. Tarlon stood motionless, watching the blank space. The veil systems hummed back to life in slow stages. No external fix. No recovery signal. Just permission. The suppression field was gone, and the ship breathed again. Consoles rebooted. Lights steadied. Comms reconnected. Sector link restored. Nira said, her voice distant. Galactic relay accepting outgoing packets. Send the report, Tarlon said. What level? All of it. Full logs. No filters. She hesitated, then nodded. The message burst into the network like a virus. Pure, raw data accompanied by a single-line subject line. Oblivion's reach. Confirmed operational. Within minutes, response pings flooded in. Questions. Demands. Urgent requests for confirmation. Fleet movement in neighboring sectors surged. Political feeds lit up with panic. No one asked why the warship had appeared. They only asked, where is it now? Tarlon closed the command feed and turned to the crew. They were silent, shaken, eyes unfocused. No one had died. No fire had reached them, but they looked like survivors of a storm that rewrote reality. On the nav screen, the clean system drifted quiet and cold. The hidden stations were gone. No debris, no rescue signals, just sterile orbits and silence. The humans had left no trace of those who had hidden crimes under dust and time. I don't think they were here for war, Nero whispered. They weren't, Tarlon said. They were here for balance. And that was worse. Wars could be ended. Balance had no terms. It came when it was ready. It left when it was satisfied. Galactic news nets were already broadcasting emergency advisories. Treaties were being dusted off. Border colonies enacted purge orders on forgotten programs. Entire empires convened emergency sessions, hoping to erase whatever sins might be remembered next, because the message had been sent. The warship had not destroyed a fleet. It had made a statement. Tarlon activated the final voice log, adding only one line before sealing it to the official record. We were not attacked. We were witnessed. The veil began its retreat, slow and silent, leaving the hollow system behind. Across hundreds of star systems, on thousands of networks, a warning repeated again, unaltered, cold and absolute. Warning. A human warship has entered the sector. No embellishment. No details. Because none were needed. The name said enough. The silence that followed said more. And everyone in the galaxy knew. If you heard that phrase, truly heard it, you weren't being threatened. You were being judged.